our lives, we will be faced with the realization of our own mortality. As hair begins to gray and our bones turn frail, we begin to understand that life, as precious as it is, must inevitably come to an end. We all go through the grieving process in our own ways. There's no universal method for healing. If you've dealt with this kind of loss, you know that the healing process sometimes feels impossible. You might feel like this lingering feeling will remain with you forever. You may hear the familiar bells of their favorite song, or catch a faint scent that reminds you of their cooking. We hope that these few techniques can relieve that pain and help you move forward while honoring their lives. There's no quick fix. Dealing with grief isn't some scientific problem that we solve. Grief is an incredibly complex emotional journey, and it isn't a process that we should rush. We're not suggesting that grief is something you can fix by watching a quick YouTube video. It's definitely not that simple. So as you watch this video of techniques to relieve your pain, understand that it's never as simple as a step-by-step guide. If you feel overwhelmed, there are professionals, family and friends that you can reach out to. You are not alone. Acceptance. Okay, so this is obviously much easier said than done. Accepting our grief sometimes feels like a battle in our minds. Part of us just wants to reject that reality of what has happened. And sometimes we reject our deepest emotions, which burn and twist deep inside of us. But it's important not to let yourself become numb. Own those feelings and understand why you're feeling them. Let them flow through every fiber of your body. Remember, there are no right or wrong feelings. It's okay to feel everything that you're feeling, even if it's confusing or disturbing. Companionship is key. The people around us make a huge difference when we're dealing with grief, but as many experts have noted, they can either help or hinder our healing process. There are those who try to fix our grief, encouraging us to get over it. This obviously isn't very helpful. The best companions during these dark times know how to listen. Sometimes there are no words to express how we're feeling, and no words to reassure us. And those people understand this. These people are just there for us, whether it means providing a distraction or lending a shoulder to cry on. Use art as an outlet. Those deep, heavy feelings of grief aren't just going to disappear, but you can channel those feelings into something creative. And art is one of the most helpful healing methods. In her book, It's Okay That You're Not Okay, psychotherapist Megan Devine recommends taking those emotions and pouring them into a painting, a graphic novel, or any other art form that gives you an outlet. Artistic expression lets you get grief off your chest, as it's a form of emotional release. Write a journal. Sometimes it's easier to keep silent rather than express our emotions. However, most psychologists agree that it's not a good idea to bottle everything inside. If art isn't your thing, keeping a journal is a great way to understand our emotions, including his grief. When writing our emotions, we confront, dissect, and ultimately come to terms with them. Based on the research on journaling in the psychological community, we understand its benefits, especially if you write over the course of multiple days. You don't have to share your journal with everyone, and that gives you total freedom to truly express yourself. Create your own rituals to honor those who have passed. We don't mean shamanistic rituals that involve intermediaries or ancient traditions. These rituals can be anything you want them to be. Dr. Kim Bateman, a clinical psychologist, encourages us to think about what made our loved ones happy when creating our own rituals. Maybe your loved one really enjoyed a specific type of tea. Your ritual could be something really simple, such as pouring your loved one a cup of tea and thinking of a memory of them while their cup sits and steams. It doesn't matter what you believe in. This is just a way for you to honor their memory, plain and simple. Don't trust in the 5 stages of grief. Most of us are familiar with the so-called 5 stages of grief. This was introduced to us by psychiatrist Elizabeth Kubler-Ross way back in 1969. And while it's definitely an interesting model, the entire concept is now a little outdated. Most modern psychologists agree that grief is not a linear process, and it can't be summed up as a simple equation or formula. Grief is experienced differently by everyone. Focus on how you are healing presently without anticipating what the next stage of this process may be. If you found this video helpful at all, please let us know in the comments. As we stated earlier, we're not trying to simplify grief, and we don't claim to have all the answers. That being said, feel free to share your own experiences with grief and how you heal from these experiences. You may help somebody else going through something. Thank you, and we appreciate you all, as always.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to the grief process. I wasn't on Friday due to personal matter. Wasn't having a very good day, everybody. So I'm on here today to do Friday's presentation as well as today's on. I felt like I needed to share a video to give you a better understanding of like what grief really talks about. So in the last week or so, I've been talking about different stages of grief, and every video that you notice that has been played on Time Ministries page as well as YouTube for those who are subscribed to that channel, you notice that there's different point of views about what grief looks like. Some people don't believe in the 5 stages of grief and feel like that's not going to help them. And some people feel like it's all over the place. So each video that I share is giving you a different concept of how people view different things, how it may seem it's out the day. Some say it's work. Some people have different opinions. Grief is ongoing battle for the rest of your life. And I talked about this. This is not something you just snap your fingers and everything come back to normal. That's not how that works, ladies and gentlemen. I find in my own personal grief that it bothers you. And ever since that Martella and my mom, and I could talk about it, is because it's a very sensitive topic to me. And when I notice every movie now, and I don't know if anybody else caught that, about every movie or every time you watch a movie, the mom is dead or the dad is dead or the parents has lost the child. It's always something about a parent losing somebody or both parents are gone and the child's in foster care. Have you ever paid attention to some of the shows that's on TV or any movies that somehow some parent or someone's parent has gotten written out or they died and the grandparents had to raise them, or a parent has kind of both parents have gotten in a car accident and end up going in foster care, or a parent has lost a mom to an illness, or a dad had passed and mom got to raise the kids by herself. Have you ever noticed those things, ladies and gentlemen? Um, it's like the people who are writing these stories on these shows and movies is relating to what's really going on in reality. Take time and watch a few movies, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Watch a few movies, and you'll be seeing like, wait a minute, I see a pattern. I see what Minister John was talking about. Let me start over again. The pattern of the parents have died both, and the child either with a grandparent or auntie or uncle or even a foster parent, or the mom has died and the dad has to raise the kids on his own, or the dad has died and the mom has to raise her kids on her own, and all this significant other, or none of this happened and they end up in foster care, and then these strange people and the child go through the system day in and day out because of that, and that child's carrying so much trauma, so much grief, so much hurt, so much pain. All these different elements that you see, ladies and gentlemen, is concrete evidence of what we're looking at right now in our society. There's so many books that are out there for grief, and we're going to continue to talk about grief on this particular subject on Time Ministry because it's an ongoing thing. It's not say, oh, pause, I'm going to stop talking about it. No, because it's an ongoing battle. There's people who are grieving right now. Somebody has just lost somebody. Somebody's still grieving from 26 years ago. It doesn't get any easier. And if somebody's telling you that, they are not fully comprehending people's different viewpoints of grief. Everybody don't grieve the same way. Everybody don't feel the same way. It's something just sparks in you out of a drop of a dime. This is what we really have to understand, ladies and gentlemen. We're at a time right now that somebody is going through this. Somebody has lost their way. So I'm going to go ahead and show you this presentation that I have created for On Time Ministry, everybody. We got to understand this is really serious, ladies and gentlemen. You can't take this and ignore this because it's happening every day. And I'm just going to be honest, and we're going to continue to talk about it on Time Ministry. So the presentation that I have for today is the grief process. How can I go on with my life feeling this way? You want me to be transparent? It's hard. It's hard for you to go on this way. It's hard for you to even digest some of the feelings that you're feeling. And the problem is, people will give you advice all day long, but at the end of the day, you have to make a choice in your mind that I really have got to get myself together. I've got to pull my way through that. When you cry, when you're upset, and when you're wavering and you're going back and forth like a boat, You're going to have to feel every ounce of that. Being transparent is what I do. You're going to have to feel it. You may not want nobody to embrace you. You may not want nobody to say anything to you. But as long as you let all those tears and emotions out on a day-to-day basis, you're heading in the proper direction. And some people still may be struggling with sleep insomnia, and some people may be having sleep insomnia. Some may be still angry after all these years. Some people may not be eating, and they're always taking sleep aid or getting some type of antidepressant or some type of form of medication to suppress the pain. And it just kind of tune off those negative thoughts and kind of suppress that emotion that you feel them. And some people may not know how to move past that situation, so they try to keep their mind occupied. And let me tell you something, you're not going to always be the same person before this happens. You're not going to be the same person you were. You're going to be a complete different person. Some days you think you're okay, and the next minute you're wailing in the corner like a baby. And it is a very horrible thing to see. And you feel like you're not going to get through it because it's so heavy on you. And you get so deep down in a dark place that you just like, oh. This is why I tell you, I recommend support groups. I really do. It will help you out a lot. When you feel like the world or family and friends don't understand you, go to a community of people that does. And On Time Ministry is going to move into that era in terms of forming that community. But I want to start off with the Grief Process webinar first, because those who want to partake in this particular part of the ministry, it has to take a lot of understanding, it has to take a lot of dedication, it has to take a lot of compassion, a lot of love to understand what somebody's really going through. A lot of times when people are in these places in their lives, they can't move their feet. They can't move forward. They're hearing all this good stuff, but in their mind, in their heart, if those two are not corresponding properly, it's going to be out of tune. It's going to be in sync. It's not going to be corresponding because it's not reciprocating. If the mind telling you one thing, the heart's telling you another. So they're not reciprocating anything that's being said. It's like an empty glass bottle. When you can't replenish it with that good nutrients, it has no substance. And that's a lot of people today. And they have to be reminded that they are loved. They have to be reminded that they are appreciated. They have to be checked on pretty much every day to make sure they're okay. They may get a place where they want to push you away. They let people have their space. I recommend, if you know somebody going through these things, to at least check on them at least 3 times a week. And sometimes on the weekends, just take some time and just say, hey, how my dear brother and sister doing? Just say, hey, I'm just checking on you, see if you're all right. Do you need anything? And sometimes they may just need somebody to just give them a hug, or just give somebody a listening ear, or just a word of encouragement just to get through that day. People grieve, and in the beginning, some may spend a lot of time at the cemetery putting flowers on their loved one's grave, and they may go every day, they may go 3 times a day, or that's serious. And they may go every day or 3 times a day, or 3 times a week, and then sometimes they may go every single day in the beginning, where they just sit there in the cemetery and just talk to their loved ones. And that's a very heartfelt situation. And when they're in that place, they're in a state of depression, ladies and gentlemen. They're in a state of depression as well as mortality, because in their mind, they are no longer they're being walking in this world, but they're not mentally here, because their mind is thinking about mortality. Their mind is thinking about being in that grave where that loved one is. And they can't tune it off because they need somebody to pour into them to say, hey, you okay? Hey, wake up. But if your mind is not tuned in, and your heart is heavy, and your spirit and your soul is completely dried out, nothing anybody can say to you, because you have reached in the bottom of the bottom, the low of the low. I've seen this, so I know exactly what I'm talking about. They're walking around like zombies because they don't know what to do. So this is where this gets tricky. If you have ever experienced someone like that, or you have ever seen someone in that state of mind, the only thing you can do is just listen. I'm going to tell you why. Because if you say anything to penetrate whatever they're feeling, because they're already in their lower state, ladies and gentlemen, already. So if you say things that are off or not even according to what they're saying, that's going to trigger them to do something crazy. This is why you have to be mindful when those who are in a very, very weak state of mind, because they can pop off at any moment. If you say anything that has anything with the regards of their loved one or this and that and the third, this is going to cause them to pop off. And when they pop off, it's going to be a really ugly scene. So this is why you have to listen to people, ladies and gentlemen. Listening to people is very important. It's not always giving them advice all the time, because a lot of times they done heard so many people give different things, but sometimes you got to see where they really are in their mindset. And when you sit there and listen to them, you take it all in and try your best to understand what really is going on with them. And you know, when you sit there and listen to what they're saying and how they're feeling, you can sometimes, and I'm going to be honest, can kind of figure out where their mind's at. But the question is that person ready to get the support and help that they need? And truth be told, a lot of people don't. And a lot of people muddle through life just taking it all in stride. And people put on this big mask of, oh, I'm fine, or I'm good, I'm happy. But the question is inside of you feel the same way as you're projecting it outside? And let's be honest, everybody, it's not. Some people wake up day in and day out with anxiety, depression, struggling to get out of bed, trying to find the strength to get up and face another day. Some people walk around here day in and day out with their head hanging low. They sit here and tell people they're fine, but in true reality, ladies and gentlemen, they are not fine. Their life is completely different. Nothing will ever be the same in their lives. And there's a couple of books I want to recommend for those who haven't read it. There's one book that I read. It's called Healing of Losing a Mother. It's a very good book, and that's a support group that I am part of. There's another good book a friend of mine recommended. It's called Good Grief. There's a couple of more that I want to share on the platform, but those are a couple of books that I recommend that you kind of dive into, because I talked about on Thursday, there's different type of levels of grief when you're grieving. The grief of a child, a mother, a dad, grandma, whatever it is that you have lost. Those are different type of griefs, and they're all going to be different. Okay. All right. Let me get to my next slide. All right. The grief process. Why do family and friends not understand? Now, this is right here, the nugget of the day. And we're going to start with family. I mean, you know, you have loved ones who have had people that have been lost in their lives, and they handle grief the way they want it. And I want to kind of say they kind of tucked it in and kind of kept their mind occupied and kind of just going on with their life and don't really share their emotions. And then you have friends who have never experienced anything that significant, so they wouldn't know what to say or how to handle it. And then you have friends who have handled it, but they don't feel that comprehend what you're feeling or comprehend what you're going through, because they don't quite understand the whole process of why you still in the depressed state, why you still moping around, why you still crying, why you still upset, why you still depressed. See, the world wants you to be happy. They want you to be bubbly. They want you to be this. Let's cut the crap. Okay. We can't be that if you don't feel like it. You can't be happy if you don't feel like it. You can't be joyful if you don't feel like it. If you feel miserable and horrible inside, you got to let it out. You got to punch a wall, throw some sand around, kick some things around, get real dirty and nasty with your anger and frustration. Do what you got to do. But don't sit there and let somebody tell you that you need to get over it or you need to do this and do that. It's up to you when you are ready to move forward. It's up to you when you get tired. And there's so many people out here right now at this very moment who are walking around here carrying a luggage of grief. And a luggage of grief And a lifetime of heartache and pain has really consumed them so much. You have people who are believers and you have people who are not believers. This is the world we live in, ladies and gentlemen. And some people don't have a particular religion that they affiliated with too. So this can be very complicated at times. And what I recommend is be a listening ear. And then come in a very casual manner. I'm going to kind of demonstrate to you. So this is me and this is another individual. So if this individual told me they are atheist, or this person said I don't have no type of religious belief, or whatever situation may be, I will sit there and be very listening to them and then kind of meet them right there where they at. I'm just giving you some advice on how to handle situations like that. So you have a casual conversation with them, just kind of get to know them, get a chance to understand who they are and where their mind is at, and then begin to just kind of say, hey, listen, I know you had trouble. I know you had some difficult things that has happened in your life. Wherever you are heading, wherever you may be going, or whatever your journey is in your life, I just hope that you are able to get a sense of direction. And I hope that you able to find some kind of relief in your own life. And I would recommend that you will celebrate your loved one's life every time a birthday or a holiday comes up. And also, too, I would recommend that you would kind of salute them for all the good accomplishments that they've done. And think about all the good terms and all the good things and all the good memories and how the happiness that was in them resonate. And when you have those happy moments and happy thoughts come in day out, you'll be able to progress further on. But it's up to that individual to take that advice and let it penetrate the mind, the heart, the spirit, and the soul. It's up to them to receive what you're saying to them. It just does something inside of them that say, hey, I got to stop being this way. Hey, I got to push back. Hey, I got to stop acting like I don't have any common sense. I got to stop sitting here and going crazy in my mind because you have so much living to do. And when you have these negative and guilty thoughts going through your mind day in and day out, that'll trigger suicide so high and so significant that you think a person is all right. Let me tell you something. Some people run around here all day long, smiling, happy, joyful to put a front for the world. But the moment they turn off all of that stuff, they go back into that place. That place. So if you have family that's not supportive, get a support group. If you have friends who are saying stuff that's not completely what you need to hear, get connected with people that actually care. You can still be friends and still be friends with them, but just keep it at a distance. Love them from a distance, speak from a distance, but deal with folks that can actually understand where you're coming from. And I know a lot of people are not very comfortable talking to strangers or people they never met in person. But I tell you this, when you open up, instead of keeping it balled in, you will feel so much better. You know how much stuff so many people carry who've been grieving, so much baggage and luggage they carry on a day-to-day basis. It's horrible. And when you look at it, like, man, I didn't realize that so many people carry that. If we look at the statistic numbers of how many people bag and stuff a lot of this emotion and pain in, you will be completely shocked. You will never know that they lost their mama or their daddy, their cousin, their child, simply because they don't express it or show it. They show an image of, oh, I'm fine, or I'm doing good. But if you sit down and really listen to what they have been through and what they have experienced, ladies and gentlemen, you will be astounded. You'll be stunned like, oh, yeah, because you don't know. Okay? So everybody, I want to thank you all for tuning into the grief process. I'm just giving you a little nugget. We'll be back on here tomorrow at normal broadcast. Not something to do this afternoon, so I won't be on this afternoon at 2 p.m. But I wanted to come in and just talk to you this morning, kind of just educate you and inform you about some of these things, because, it is a lot. Okay. I love you all. Have an amazing and wonderful Monday. I'll see you back here tomorrow with 2 broadcasts. One is the mental exercise. It's called Checking With Yourself. And then I'll be on tomorrow. Tomorrow evening about 8 p.m. because I have a presentation I want to present to the ministry on tomorrow. So I love you all. Have a blessed and amazing Monday. I'm gonna get off this platform and enjoy my day. Take care, everybody.